Spider-Man 2, starring Tobey Maguire, is one of my favorite movies of all time. Full of incredible action, wonderful relationships, and beautiful set pieces. Yo, geek, wait. We're supposed to be reviewing the game, Marvel Spider-Man 2. Oh, not the 20-year-old movie. That makes sense. That tracks. Yeah, that's fair. Marvel Spider-Man 2 starts us out with one of, if not the best opening scenes I've ever played through in a video game. Between the cutscenes, gameplay, mechanics, this opening fight with Sandman, it's a wonderful jumping off point for the third game in this series. Seeing Peter and Miles swing into action together is always wonderful. The combat in this game is largely the same as it was in both the OG and Miles Morales, with wonderful additions like perfect parries and acrobatic finishers. The combat is incredibly satisfying, finally matching or exceeding the combat in the Arkham games. This is one of the best playing superhero games of all time. The story itself feels very much ripped directly out of a comic book, which is awesome. The exciting, upbeat nature of Spider-Man mixed with what seems to be the worst luck ever for any person in Peter creates both an upbeat and somber tone that the game does a wonderful job of ebbing and flowing, with nothing ever feeling overly jarring. Weaving in the new story of Harry and Peter's friendship, and Peter's friendship with Miles, the relationships we've seen Peter struggle with in the game continue to be a struggle. The quintessential experience of this game is whipping past apartment buildings in Brooklyn during the evening commute as the sun goes down. An alert pops up notifying you of a fire nearby. You shift your weight and cut through the alley in the direction of the emergency when a podcast comes on and J. Jonah Jameson starts ranting about so-called reformed criminals. Before you can get 2 blocks, a Technicolor wave tips you off to a lost Spider-Bot nearby. So you course correct again to snag the collectible. Now MJ is calling you to talk about the bills that are piling up at home. But before she can get started, you descend on the robbers and have to hang up. Miles is already there, kicking their asses, and we make short work of it. He says goodbye. MJ starts calling again. A new side mission prompt appears. This is Spider-Man 2 at its best, leaving you entirely overwhelmed, completely out of breath, your attention being yanked in a million directions all at once, just like you are Peter or Miles. Doing all of this is when we get what is realistically the best new character in this game, the city of New York. It's been completely changed. It is more sprawling, and it is absolutely incredible. Brooklyn and Queens have now joined the map, with the water separating them from Manhattan free to surf across. We can also fly now.
Oh, they fly now! They fly now! They fly now!
A new wingsuit lets Peter and Miles glide for long stretches with a single button press. Air vents shoot you up into the sky, while wind tunnels propel you across vast distances, since there is no longer a need for fast travel. The entire map can be rendered thanks to the PlayStation 5. You can get propelled across vast distances, including the entire East River. It's a simple addition that makes traversing New York feel brand new all over again, just like it did with the original Spider-Man game. There's something beautiful on a different level about the way New York is in all of these games. Maybe it's the fact that it's a lot cleaner than it is in real life. Moving on from all of that, we have the villains in this game. Let's start with Kraven the Hunter. He's a wonderful main villain for this game, though he is not the big bad. His skill and power makes him a wonderful match in battles with Spider-Man and Venom. Outside of just the combat, Kraven's story is absolutely wonderful. Searching for his last hunt because he is dying of cancer is not a twist I was expecting. Him slaughtering many of Spider-Man's greatest villains with ease is so interesting and really puts into perspective how afraid of Kraven we should be. Vulture and Scorpion stood no chance. The story of his family wanting to be the ones to hunt him, but him being unwilling to let a lesser opponent have a chance to even take him out really speaks to the type of person he is, not just as a villain, but as a warrior. Seeking out his final battle. He doesn't want to slowly die in a bed. He doesn't want to die slowly, sitting in bed at half strength. He wants to be bested in battle by an opponent he actually views as better. That's why he came to New York and is finding all of these villains. He is looking for that final opponent. Venom is introduced early on as a cure for the disease Harry is fighting. When in a fight with Kraven, Peter nearly dies. This magic suit transfers to Pete to save him. Pete is unable to give this suit back, not knowing it's a symbiote. Slowly, this symbiote starts corrupting Peter, leading us to Bully Yuri, our new version of Bully Maguire. Spider-Venom goes on a slight rampage, bullying MJ, Miles' mother, and before a fight with Kraven, and then a fight with Miles. Kraven begs Peter Venom to stop holding back, but Pete's good nature wins out against the symbiote in almost all moments. As corrupted as he gets, he can never fully be Venom. Venom beats Kraven in this moment, but does not kill him. Miles then fights Venom and wins, allowing us to get the symbiote off of Peter and bringing us back to where we are. The symbiote rebonds with Harry and fully becomes Venom. This is where the game really starts to take off in these final moments. Harry's Venom easily kills Kraven. The fight, while it seems to matter, Kraven is still able to get some licks in. It's never really close. It doesn't feel like Venom is hurt. It doesn't feel like you're losing. This isn't just one of those easy story tropes where you see the main villain get just absolutely destroyed by somebody else just to build up that new villain. This felt like the correct progression of things. Peter's Venom was also able to really fight with Kraven, but we knew something was holding him back. Nothing is holding Harry's Venom back. As we get one of the most beautiful shots in this game of Venom kind of overtaking New York, Dr. Connors proceeds to tell Peter that to beat the symbiote, we will have to kill Harry because they've reached full symbiosis. The visual of the city being covered in Venom before the final fight is just gorgeous. The final fight between Peter and Venom is expertly crafted, taking place at Peter and Harry's high school, telling the story of them through Venom's twisted eyes. A beautifully designed fight, both in story, cutscenes, mechanics, all leading to Peter's near death before Miles shows up. Miles was stuck with Kraven for a while, along with Martin Lee, who at the beginning of this game was freed by Kraven. Now, Kraven took Lee hostage, and we get a fight between Miles and Lee. Lee talks about how he doesn't really want to kill Miles, but Miles just wants justice, and not just revenge. This fight, Miles ends up freeing Martin Lee, telling him to find Spider-Man, knowing that Peter can save him in this moment. So Lee does. He finds Venom Peter and sends him for Miles. This all leads to when Venom rebonds with Harry. As we see New York covered in Venom, Peter gets bonded to by Venom again, kind of, but it's different. Venom created more symbiotes. MJ turned into Scream, many, many other symbiotes. So Martin Lee and Miles go inside Peter's mind, trying to break him free from Venom. To do so, Martin Lee has to put all of his negative energy into Peter, thus creating the anti-Venom suit. Had Miles taken full revenge against Lee and killed him, New York would have been lost. But Miles showing he truly is Spider-Man, with the always giving everyone a second chance, always looking for the best in people, allowed him to keep Lee alive, which saves Peter. which saves everything. Miles shows up to the last fight with Venom after Peter is down for the count and is able to use his abilities to beat Venom, removing him from Harry. Harry in this moment has no life signs, no heartbeat, he's not breathing. Miles uses his Venom, which I've always loved that that's what it's called, to resuscitate Harry. Even though he was jealous of the relationship Harry shared with Pete throughout the game. When the Spider-Man take Harry to Norman and an ambulance, Norman blames them for Harry being nearly dead. The entire setup of that is for Green Goblin in the next game. Along with that, all of the side stories for Miles are interesting. We see him struggling with what Peter has always struggled with, being able to find time for his relationships and school and work and being Spider-Man. It feels very much like he has fully taken on the mantle throughout this game. The best side mission for Miles, I believe, are all of the Mysterio things. The Mysteriums are fun, and that is a cool side story of Mysterio actually being a good person now, but being tricked by someone he thought he was his friend into not being one. Now, don't get me wrong, this game has flaws. New York, while it does feel better than in the previous game, still feels as plasticky as ever. Some of the things that helped it feel less plasticky, like the little subway cutscenes for fast traveling, are gone because the PS5 doesn't need them. You still can't enter any shops or any buildings, and that does just feel worse in every way. There's also, I had multiple experiences of the wrong suit being worn during cutscenes. Like, it would just change my suit randomly, which is very odd. Overall, Spider-Man 2 is a wonderful experience. In most years, we'd be screaming from the rooftops that this is Game of the Year. In 2023, though, we're talking about games like Jedi Survivor not even making the list of games going for Game of the Year. Despite all of that, the story and world building is elite in this game, with some of the best combat controls in a superhero game. And just with some of the best combat controls. With the best combat controls for a superhero game and some of the best combat controls for a video game in general. This, as well as the first two games, will always be recommendations from me. There's not really any other non-comic book media that represents its characters as well as these games do. Insomniac deserves a huge hat tip, and they deserve all the credit in the world, and the ability to make every Marvel game from here on out if it were up to me. Spider-Man 2 is easily a top 5 game of this year for me, and maybe a top 10 game just in general, but that's all the time we have. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.